grocery store as Oklahoma lawmakers push through bills to eliminate the state's grocery tax.
We're going to have to break it down by color codes because we've got wind advisories, then we've got flood watches, and finally, we've got winter storm warnings. All that in the span of 24 hours coming up from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a British teen attempts to break his own sister's aviation record.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Oklahoma lawmakers push to end the state's grocery tax. This is KOAM News at Noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, Oklahoma's 4.5% state tax on grocery purchases could soon be eliminated under a bill approved by a Senate committee. The majority of states across the U.S. do not have a grocery tax. Some are taxed at a lower rate, like in Missouri and in Arkansas. But both Kansas and Oklahoma are among only 7 states to place a tax on groceries. On Tuesday, Oklahoma Senate Finance Committee unanimously approved the bill. Similar measure to phase out the tax over 3 years cleared a House committee last week with bipartisan support. Republican Governor Kevin Stitt endorsed the idea last week in his State of the State address. Neither bill would prohibit cities or counties from levying their own sales tax on groceries. Well, business in the front, party in the back, and all heart. An Arkansas boy who takes his pandemic hairdo turns it into a prize-winning act of charity. What started as a way to pass the time morphed into more than a mullet for Baltz. After a friend told him about the USA Mullet Championship, everything changed. He heard about the $25,000 prize and decided if he won, he would donate the winnings to foster care. After nerve-wracking rounds of voting, Allen won first place and the title of USA Mullet Champion.
Chose mullet because I'm like, what would really embarrass my sister the most?
After word spread that Allen planned to donate his prize money to foster care, donations started pouring in, roughly $4,500 from the community to add to his foster care donation. Pretty cool.
So the sunglasses make it, don't they?
Yeah.
The sunglasses really do help him. It gives him that definitive look. But what
my favorite shot is him, like we ran the story when he was competing.
Yeah.
When he was like just shaking his flowy locks. And
what a great gesture by that young man right there. Here's where we sit temperature-wise. I think the key factors are color contour. We're starting to see the cold front work in there from the northwest. Very comfortable temperature-wise. It is not comfortable fighting this wind. That is for sure. Just ask your contacts about it. Skywatch Storm Tracker starting to pick up just the light scattered rain in southeast Kansas. Majority of the 4 states has remained dry, and it's going to be quite a while before that flips over into any wintry precipitation. Now let's talk about our watches, warnings, advisories. We got a little taste of everything. We'll dive into the flood watches here in just a little bit. Of course, the wind advisory. That is going to dominate the entire 4 states till about 6 o'clock tonight. And then, speaking of 6 a.m. this morning, that popped up right there. That's a winter storm warning, an idea that the cold temperatures are actually going to flip the winds on us. It's going to take all that rain, bring us some freezing rain and some snow, and it's going to be an interesting Thursday morning. As we progress through Wednesday afternoon, we'll see a little bit of that rain make its way east across the Missouri state line, but we really don't get started in action until after sunset. Start to pick up some thunderstorm activity down to the south. That's where we're going to actually see the most rain as it progresses through. Then we start to see the upper part of it turn into the freezing rain. Here's the problematic part, because this is going to happen while it's dark, way before sunrise. We're going to have some slippery conditions out there. And then as this rain moves down here, remember we talked about those flood watches. That's 2 to 4 inches of rain that's going to swell the creeks and the streams. After that, on top of the freezing rain that elongates there as we get closer to sunrise, here comes the snow, pushing in for about 1 to 2 inches of snow by the time Thursday is said and done. Coming up here in just a little bit, Tanya, we'll not only break down those watches, warnings, and advisories, but also to wait until you see the huge change in temperatures that we're going to experience from one part of the 4 states to the others. We could be seeing single digits in one of our cities and still hanging on to the mid-50s down to the south.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow. Well, New York firefighters are on the scene of a massive fire in Long Island. A tanker truck full of nearly 13,000 gallons of gas crashed into a furniture store early this morning, sparking an explosion. The building caught fire and collapsed, and the driver was rushed to the hospital. 3 firefighters were injured battling the flames. Part of the Sunrise Highway will be closed today as crews work to clean up the spill. The U.S. says Russia has amassed more than 150,000 soldiers near Ukraine's borders, and those forces are prepared to attack at any moment. But Russia is denying its plans to attack and says those forces have been participating in military exercises, which are coming to an end. Natalie Brand has more details from Capitol Hill.
Russia says more of its forces are pulling back from Ukraine's borders, but the U.S. and allies are skeptical, saying they see continued signs of troop buildup.
Our concern is that the troops that matter, those that are ringing Ukraine to the north, to the east, and to the south, are actually increasing their readiness.
President Biden is talking today with Germany's chancellor, one day after Olaf Scholz met with Russian President Vladimir Putin. While diplomacy is still the hope, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin is in Belgium for meetings with NATO.
NATO is not a threat to Russia, and we remain ready to engage in dialogue and find a diplomatic way forward. But while we continue to work for the best, we must also be prepared for the worst.
Russian aggression is the topic of a hearing on Capitol Hill today. Lawmakers and the administration say the threat extends beyond Europe.
If an authoritarian leader anywhere in the world is able to invade their neighbor and take them over by force and deny them sovereignty, then this won't end at Ukraine. It'll happen all around the world.
The State Department says China, North Korea, Iran, and other authoritarian governments are watching. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Ukraine saw cyber attacks on its defense ministry and two big banks on Tuesday. Many analysts say that's exactly what would happen prior to troops moving across the border. Both the U.S. and Ukraine have stopped short of pinning those attacks on Russia, but it remains the #1 suspect. The Kremlin denies any link to the cyber attacks. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon. Talk about sibling rivalry. A British 16-year-old attempts to become the youngest person to fly across the world solo in a small plane, a record once held by his sister. And later, we're making a double chocolate layer cake in the Mr. Food Test kitchen. A teenage boy from Britain wants to join his older sister in the record books by becoming the youngest person to fly solo around the world. CBS's Tina Kraus has the story from London.
It's Mac Rutherford's turn in the spotlight, just weeks after his older sister Zara grabbed headlines as the youngest female pilot to circle the globe on her own.
So I'm planning to break the world record of youngest person to fly solo around the world.
There's nothing like a bit of sibling rivalry, but this 16-year-old insists there's more to his mission.
I want to show that you don't have to be 18 or older, you don't have to be an adult to do incredible things. You can be young. That's
fantastic. Matt qualified for his pilot's license at age 15, but says he's been obsessed with flying since he was 3.
The first time I actually touched the controls and flew was when I was 7. Since then my passion has grown.
Aviation runs in his blood. His parents are pilots too.
We have an amazing team here, including Zara, who will be able to bring invaluable knowledge to each of his decisions on whether to continue or to stop.
Mac will pilot the same Shark ultralight plane his big sis flew when he takes off from Bulgaria next month.
Spots such as the Sahara Desert or the Congolese jungle or New York are going to be incredible places to visit.
Mac says his round-the-world adventure will take a few months, and after he soars into the record books, he'll dive back into his school books, prepping for high school exams. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
Up and away. The youngest person to fly around the globe alone is Travis Ludlow, a British aviator who completed the trip last year at the age of 18. Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
There are many ways to frost a cake, and today I want to share a few tips and a recipe that'll make you a whiz.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
All things considered, we had a nice little run this week. We know we got the winter weather coming, but look at this. 67 degrees already on this Wednesday. Ended up being the warmest day of the work/school week, and the lowest we had was 58 there on Monday. That's hard to beat. And if you need to feel just a little bit warmer, Second time we've done it this week. What were you doing 1 year ago today? Probably wearing about 18 layers. Set a record low 1 year ago today. We dropped down to 15 degrees below zero on this February 16th of 2021, and yet here we stand with temperatures in the mid to high 60s. A live look outside of 7th and Range Line. 66 degrees is where we stand, still fighting the wind. It's been gusting at Joplin Regional Airport 40, 45 miles an hour just all morning long. Now, if you want to look for a little reprieve, it's going to be right along the cold front right there, where we see it begin to shift in from the north. But we've got a ways to go before that gets on us, and that's why that wind advisory stretches all the way until 3 o'clock this afternoon. And even as you dive off to the east and the southeast, it's going to take just a little bit longer for it to die down. We've got color-coded map just about everywhere with this impending storm a-coming. But so far, just a little light rain through southeast Kansas. Heavy cloud covers stuck around. But everything just kind of shifted and sprinted in right there from the southwest, kind of hanging. Haven't had but trace accumulation amounts, and not going to pick up until this evening as far as having to worry about any flooding concerns. As we look at the cold front now making its way through central Kansas, going to drop down to the southeast. Slow mover though. We've seen a little bit of movement since this morning, but not one of those that has a tendency to cover 3 or 4 states in the span of just a couple hours. So really not going to be all-encompassing for us until we get to tomorrow morning, as a matter of fact. So let's go ahead and ride the 60s, and then we can break down our travel concerns for tomorrow. And of course, you'll also see the steep drop there as far as what we see on the mercury. Not a whole lot of movement in the severe thunderstorm risk map, and that's an indicator that the confidence level as far as what we're going to see down to the south kind of the same, maintaining, if you will, from what we had yesterday. Now, as we shift from Wednesday into Thursday, we just see a little bit more down here south of I-44, and once again, that's exactly where we have those flood washes. That's indicated in the green, and those last all the way until Thursday at 6. And Jasper County a part of that as well. As you sink down here toward the Arkansas state line, that's where we could see 2 to 4 inches of rain. Creeks, streams, those are going to be swollen. Know those low-lying areas. Anticipate on those being flooded by the time you get to your Thursday morning travel, and those stretch all the way on the other side of the Mississippi from St. Louis, and indicated that those thunderstorms, instead of taking really a northeasterly track, they're going to do a good job just pushing off east once they spawn over us, and we will kind of be the starting point for these mid-February thunderstorms. Scattered rain through the afternoon and evening, then we begin to get a little serious as we see the heavier rain indicated in the yellow, orange, and the red right there, and as it drops down, then we get a taste of everything. So this is going to be the heaviest rain. That's where we saw on the severe thunderstorm risk map. We see the freezing rain indicated in the pink up top. We're trying to turn that over into snow. As far as our ice accumulation goes, really probably going to try to stall out with a glaze right there just below Pittsburgh. Now, that does not mean you are not going to have some slick spots on the road from Joplin down to the south. It means really if you get up from about, say, Highway 400 up to the north, your ice chances are increasing. There's your flooding concerns in southwest Missouri. Take Highway 54, go up to the north. That's where you're going to see 1 inch, 2 inches of snow. And then we taper off our snow accumulation as we drop down to the south. You'll notice this snow, though. Look at this. This thing's going to hold on all the way into the afternoon hours. Now let's talk about winter storm watches and warnings. Those are indicated in the blue and the pink because it's not just the accumulation. Tanya, check out these temperatures. 16 in the Yates Center. That's cold enough as it is. Look at the bottom of your screen. Still hold on to 60 degrees down there in Neosho and Anderson. Don't worry. Everybody's going to be mired in single-degree wind chills by the time we get to Thursday night. Tanya has been doing a marvelous job, however, reminding me. One-shot deal, we get safely through tomorrow, and we're back up into the 40s, 50s, and 60s for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, respectively.
Oh, wow. Well, yes.
Let's be on our toes, though, for tomorrow morning, please.
We can do it. We'll make it. Be prepared for tonight.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Delbert Allen in the U.S. Army. Riverton, Kansas native joined the military in 1953. He served tours in both Korea and in Vietnam, earning a number of honors. Among them, the National Defense Service Medal and the Fast Sportsmanship Rifle Medal. To Delbert Allen, we thank you, our four-state hero. Need a little help perfecting your skills in the kitchen? Today, Howard shows us some tips on how to frost a cake in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Recently, I was asked, what is the best way to frost a cake? So today, I want to share a few tips to help you out, along with recipes for a homemade chocolate cake in fudgy frosting. First, make sure that your cake is completely cooled before frosting it. So put it on a cooling rack after it comes out of the oven. Then place one layer on a platter. Tuck pieces of wax paper around the bottom. This allows us to frost all the way to the bottom of our cake without messing up our platter. Now we top it with some icing and put the other layer of cake on top. We place this on a Lazy Susan. This way we can easily get to all sides of the cake with little effort. At this point, we smear it with a thin layer of frosting using an offset spatula, which looks like this, and we'll let that set up in the fridge. This is called a crumb coat, so don't worry if you get crumbs in your frosting at this point. Then all we do is frost it one more time over our crumb coat, and we end up with perfect results every time. So to get you going, let me share a scratch cake and frosting so you can try out your newfound skills. Let me tell you, I think this is one of the best chocolate cakes we've ever made. To get the recipe for our double chocolate layer cake, simply visit our website. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a picture-perfect way for you to say, "Ooh, it's so good."
Looks good. You can find this recipe for the cake and the frosting, along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at koamnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4-state market prices.
All right, 3 things to remember as we get ready for this. Number 1, umbrella. Number 2, multiple layers. Number 3, safety, safety, and safety. Remember, we're going to start developing slick spots way before sunrise tomorrow out on the road, so let's plan accordingly. Try to get out the door early and take it nice and slow.
All right.
Good advice.
What do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, more than ever, parents are talking with their kids about money. We have advice from the experts about how to have these conversations and when. Plus, inflation affects all aspects of our economy. Tonight, we're going to hear from Area Agency on Aging, a nonprofit organization feeling the effects from gas to food prices. And the 4th defendant in a murder case with 9 other defendants is sentenced for her role. Hope you'll join us. KOAM News at 5.
All right, thank you, Dal. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.